Just to quickly also remind you again that your investment journey should kickstart off today if you are yet to invest in intangible assets. Zabo is a platform by Alltech East Africa, and it's telling you to grow your money today because your money is your future. Dial *292# for the MTN subscribers. Quickly kickstart off your investment journey and see how your money grows. And these markets are already open. They do open at 8:15 a.m. and will close at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. The only times you will find them closed is during weekends and during public holidays. So it's a no hassle with Zabo. With a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings, you will be able to invest in government bonds and see your investment journey kickstart off and your money grow. Well, now it's time for us to head into the SMB on ground and see what discussions Barija Andrew had for us. Well, last week there was a statement that was released by the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and this was entirely looking at the visa-free countries where Ugandans can travel minus the visa. Now, we want to understand how is this going to help the business community with the fact that these countries have now become quite a huge number, and how shall we tap into the fact that we can benefit of these particular countries. Let's get it in the on ground this morning.
Welcome to Smb-Business on Ground. I'm Andrew Barije, and today the topic of discussion is going to largely dwell on the recent communication that's from the Ministry of Internal Affairs about a new list of countries. Welcome to Smb-Business on Ground. I'm Andrew Barije, and today the topic of discussion is going to largely dwell on the recent communication that's from the Ministry of Internal Affairs about a new list of countries where Ugandans can actually travel without visas. So what will be necessary is a means of transport and probably a document to prove your citizenship of Uganda, so that it shows that you actually qualify to be into that country without a visa. But then there is another mindset to this. We want to understand, how is this relevant to the labor export industry? What does it mean? Is there any benefits that we might ascertain, or they may not be much? So here with me is, of course, I'm with the personnel from the labor-related matters. Is going definitely to talk more about herself, make a further introduction as we discuss this matter. What does this mean to the labor export industry in Uganda? Madam, you're welcome on Smb-Business on Ground, and we are discussing the list of the countries where Ugandans can now travel without visas. What does this mean to the labor export industry in Uganda?
Thank you so much. Our dear viewers, my name is Lydia Buite. I work with Platform for Labor Action as a manager programs. We saw the list of the different countries where Ugandans can travel without a visa. So it means that you don't have to pay for the entry visa into that particular country. Now, looking at labor externalization as a trade in itself, is it an advantage, or is it a disadvantage, or then how do we perhaps as a country benefit from it? Because has been this whole thing of the expenses of paying for visa entries and all that, making labor externalization for some of the people very expensive, especially for those jobs that require either for the worker themselves to facilitate themselves. Now, when you look at the list of those countries, majority of them are African countries. And going as to whether it's going to benefit in terms of labor externalization, we all know what all African countries struggle with. We have one thing in common. We all struggle with unemployment. That is a given. So whether the entry visa is free, the question of that fellow African country having job opportunities that can also accommodate Ugandans, they are very, very minimal. So the labor externalization sector, it may not necessarily benefit. However, to some of those in some of the African countries, for example, where you don't need visa entry. I'll give an example of Zambia, for example. Zambia hosts the COMESA market, and Uganda is one of the member of the COMESA. So it makes trading for the businessmen in terms of just trading into such a country very easy, entry and exit, because you don't have to put in a lot of money as you're entering this particular country to do trade. But when it comes to labor externalization, in itself, it does not really it will not have a direct impact on it, because though they are not like job opportunities in Zambia, for example, because also as a country they have unemployment, so it will not be so much from that particular angle. What I also want to note is that even in countries where you don't need visa entry, if for example you are going to work there, then you still need what we call work permits. So often the work permits are more expensive. Yes, they're more expensive. But also countries that, for example, allow Ugandans to go in is that they are looking at the bigger opportunities of trading and maybe people coming in and doing business there ideally. It's not necessarily that they can play a bigger role in labor externalization. Then the other thing, for example, I looked at some countries like Ireland. Ireland is one of those countries. Of course, anyone would be like, you know what, maybe I'll go Ireland because, I mean, it is a European country at the end of the day. And perhaps the terms of employment are better terms of employment. And maybe you'll be like, okay, let me go in this particular country. Well, there is also what we need to understand, that in labor externalization, the European countries also reached a decision in terms of, there was this whole process of what we call brain drain from, developing countries ideally. And Uganda is one of the developing countries. So European countries are very, very keen at not, for example, recruiting skilled labor from a developing country, because they feel that developing country needs that labor to develop further. So instead, other than taking it away from them. So that was a deliberate decision. So you will not see so many European countries, for example, doing massive recruitments from a developing country, because that is the standard. A developing country needs its skilled labor to develop it further. So Ireland is one of those developed countries. It is in the European context, so in terms of them recruiting from Uganda or our externalization of labor benefiting from such a setting becomes very minimal. However, of course, there are other opportunities that Ireland as a government gives to Ugandans. There are scholarships, there are other things that you can go and do in Ireland, but not necessarily that you are going on a massive deployment of you're going to deploy massive people or workers into Ireland. No. Yeah. So if other countries like Hong Kong, for example, we know that is China, and the reason why China opened up is not because, for example, our labor externalization can benefit from this free visa entry. No, it's that because China is a trading city, so it is welcoming traders to come and trade. So you should not be bothered so much about the entry of for me to come and trade, because they make products which we go and buy from China and bring back to Africa, and bring back to Uganda to be specific. So the waiver of the visa requirement is to allow and facilitate trade relations between these two countries, Uganda and China overall. But it's not that the labor externalization program can also benefit from externalizing into China, because I'm wondering the kind of skill that you'll be taking to China, because China is a master of skills. They have different skills, so you have to, and even if you are to take unskilled labor, for example, how we are externalizing people to go and work as domestic workers, for example, in China it may not be necessarily possible because of the setting in itself. The home setting is a linear home, because of the policy of one child per couple. So it's a very linear home in China, and sort of like they manage within themselves. So I don't see, even in terms of the unskilled labor, for us to be able to externalize in China, for example. Yeah. So the free visa entry, really, I don't see externalization of labor program or as a trade benefiting so much from it. Yes.
Very interesting. Now, if we can also talk about, because your aspect was skill, what are those? Okay, how best can the skill, let me say, the labor from the African countries gain that competitive advantage whereby it can be recruited on a mass basis to those European countries? Because I know they say the labor is needed, but there are those really extra skilled people, and probably they are not earning what they need to earn. They're like, can I say the minimum wage is not fair?
Yeah, in terms of as a country, competitiveness, and when you look into the National Development Plan, NDP3, we are looking at enhancing the human capital. You know, human capital development is an integral part of the development agenda for the country, especially looking into the youth population and how can they then be competitive at within the national level, regional level, but also global level. So what we need as a country is to skill for the global market, because oftentimes we skill for this now market of the national level. So it's important to skill for the global market if our youth people, young people, are to tap into the employment at the global level. So we have to skill. We even have to bring in aspects of certification, of like certifying. There are certain professions where for you to be globally recognized, you need to be certified, you know, at that particular level. So it's for us to say we are skilling for the global market, and so that then our youth, they can compete at that particular global level. When I say in terms of brain drain, it's when you're taking massive workers out of potential level, out of the country. But does not mean that a qualified person out there, 1, 3, 4, cannot be employed by any other country. Yes, they can be employed, definitely. They can be employed because and we've seen many of them, like those who go and maybe further their education in these different countries. Oftentimes they are actually retained. So you go some universities and you find professors from Uganda and all those things. So it is that. But also I think the global, the international community is also doing much effort to ensure that even when you're retained, what else are you doing back home? For example, I could be retained at a university, but maybe I still do work with the Makerere University, for example. So the nation is not losing out on your brilliancy and qualification as a person. So there are efforts, so people can be employed, but not at a massive level. Remember when we were supposed to externalize nurses? You know, the time when we were supposed to externalize nurses, was it to Canada, I think? Something of that sort. But so what happened is that, so they're like, no, we cannot take away all that. And the government had to stop, because as a country, we need the nurses. We don't have enough. So that's what happens. When we talk about some countries not allowing to employ at a massive level from a certain developing country, that's what we mean, that you cannot take away so much. Like, for example, they wanted over 3,000 nurses. So you ask at the country level, how many are qualified nurses, how many are employed, how many are remaining, what is the excess of the trend. So in terms of skilling, we need to skill for the global market, so that then we are able to tap into those particular opportunities.
Now,
because also when we tap into the global opportunities, we're also able to transfer back skills back home. Yes.
Now, like still looking at this list, most of the countries are African, and we're talking about competitiveness. Yes, we may not have the global advantage regarding that, but still, I feel that in a way, if we cannot make it to the global level, there is where we stand on the African level, and looking at some of these countries, because I believe we have one of the best institutes recognized, like studying institutes, where labor can be really trained, very, very large. According to your observation, because I know 2 years from now, the situation how it is now is not going to be the same way. Probably we hope things would have been better. So what advice do you give to a student? What should it be? Okay, what should they do right now so as to tap into the future expected opportunities? Because I know it won't just be something, there will be a benefit somewhere. What should they be doing at this point right now to tap into those opportunities?
Yeah, thank you so much. A student out there, first of all, such a student has to, even as you're studying, right now, COVID came, but also COVID came with good things. It brought us, it just normalized the use of technology to study. For example, there are short courses, that are being offered in different universities and in different fields that you can be doing even as you're doing that degree or diploma where you are in Uganda, but you're doing it. And by the time you're finishing your degree diploma, you have another certificate, and already that certificate has already been awarded to you by an institution which is even outside Uganda. So meaning you're already adding value to yourself, and you're telling the global market, labor market, that look, I'm here, I'm preparing for you, I'm coming. You understand? So for us to go out for those opportunities, let us not be lazy, because sometimes as young people we get lazy, and say, oh, coursework and what, do something. Get these different certificates that you can get, especially also embracing IT generally, and we just have to invest in it, because that is where we are going. Who knew that when COVID came, whereas it was pressing us, but instead it brought us the virtual learning platforms, and now we are very comfortable with them and we learn.
In just 1 minute, how do you see the future of the labor export industry?
How I see the future of labor export industry, I see it in Uganda. I see it being for it to be ethical enough, practicing ethical recruitment practices that protect and promote the rights of the migrants workers that are involved. Yes.
Thank you so much. Yes, this is Smart Means Business on Ground, and today the discussion has been on the list, and of course a communication from the Ministry of Internal Affairs regarding the new countries where Ugandans can actually travel without visas. So I guess in the future there could be possible expected opportunities like she has outlined them, and what you should be doing as somebody aspiring to join the labor market in the future. Andrew Barige, Smart Means Business on Ground.
All right, no visa required in these 64 countries if you were to travel, according to the one that was according to the new list that was released by the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Now, when you look at some of the countries in here, there's Fiji, Bahamas, Barbados, there's Benin, Botswana, British Virgin Islands, Burundi, there's the Cook Islands, Dominica, Ecuador, Eritrea, Eswatini, then there is Haiti, Grenada, Hong Kong, among the other countries, Malawi, Lesotho, there is Kenya, Philippines, Rwanda, Senegal, Singapore, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there is Tanzania, the Gambia, then there is Vanuatu, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mauritius, Malaysia, Malawi, and quite a number of those, even Jamaica and Indonesia. So pretty much quite a number of countries, a total of 64, of which Ugandans can ably travel minus a visa. So you'll only need a passport to move out here. And within the East African region, moving to Kenya, Tanzania, you'll only need a national ID. Same applies to Rwanda for you to quickly move into those particular countries. Well, now, let's cross over to more of the business update as we're summing up with Smart Means Business this particular morning. President Museveni has arrived in the United Kingdom for a one-day working visit, as he will be heading to the United States to meet President Joe Biden. President Yuri arrived in the United Kingdom in the evening yesterday at the Harrods Aviation Luton fixed base operator in London. He landed at 7:50 p.m. United Kingdom time to the reception of, among others, United Kingdom's Trade Envoy to Uganda and Rwanda, Lord Dola Poppet, Uganda's High Commissioner to the UK, His Excellency Nimisha Madvan, and Lord Sheriff of Bedfordshire, Vinod Bagwadas Taylor. Now, the President will be in the UK for a one-day working visit en route to the United States of America for the US-Africa Leaders Summit. So during his visit in the UK, President Museveni will meet investors and the UK government officials. President Museveni was due to make a visit to the United Kingdom in September, where he would have joined Ugandan-born Indians for their 50th anniversary. But that was called off following the death of Queen Elizabeth II, if we do all remember so well. And of course, Smart 24 TV was going to apparently bring you all the updates during that time of that particular UK investment summit that did not happen. So President Museveni was escorted by his daughter Natasha to the United Kingdom, as he will as well be moving to the United States for that particular US-Africa Leaders Summit, where African leaders will be meeting with the United States President Joe Biden. All right, and that is it for the SMB update this morning, as we'll quickly be giving you all those updates. If you run to our social media platforms, Twitter is Smart24TV, Facebook is Smart24TV official. Do remember our Instagram is Smart24_TV, and as well on LinkedIn. Well, YouTube channel is Smart24TV Live. Please do remember to subscribe as well. I'm Joram Paul Sonko. You can as well follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Joram Paul Sonko. Let's talk business and all matters social life. Have yourselves a blessed day. Till tomorrow, Smart Means Business goes to a rest. Today, Monday, 12 December 2022. I wish you a blessed week ahead of you, and quickly stay tuned to Smart 24, as coming up will be Financial Markets with Anthony Sebale. More daily programming will continue. Yugi Tukole, Fred Makubia, Skill Up Now, and Mutumba Jenkolila with Hassan Duga. And The Point tonight with Anthony Sebale still, and then we shall be back in the evening with Business Today. Have a good day.